Good afternoon. My name is Tanya Henderson, and I'm in here to talk to you today about a new series that I'm launching, which is Dynamics GP 2BC. And what I'm going to talk about is just the different things that you do inside of GP today and how you would do those inside of Business Central. So we have a lot of people that we're bringing from one product to another, and I get that question all the time. And this is my first complete live stream where I'm doing it to Twitter and I'm doing it to YouTube. So this could be an epic fail, but we're going to try it. So Steve tells me all the time that I just need to, Steve Endo just tells me I need to jump out there and do this. And so I figured I've been video recording all day today, so I might as well just kind of jump into it and keep going today. So I'm going to switch over to my laptop. We're going to look at some slides, and then I'm going to do a demo, just kind of where, how you do some of those things in BC. Now, most of the stuff in my first session is just overall about, the differences between the products, which I've actually been talking about with Rod O'Connor and Steve Endo earlier today and earlier this week. So you may see those a little bit of a duplication, but actually I wrote this this session in the end of December, and now I'm just finally getting around to getting this published. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into it, and if you have any suggestions for any other products that you would, or any other modules you'd like me to go through on GP to BC, I am happy to do that. Just let me know in my comments, and I will write some blogs about this stuff as well. So let's jump into it now and see what we can find out. So again, this is looking at the, just kind of going into GP to BC. So where we're going to start in this is just kind of looking at those very kind of first three things, so what is GP? So GP is an on-prem or on-premise product. It is also based on concurrent licensing. And so in a session we were talking about earlier today, we were talking about concurrent versus named, and there's definitely some different, obviously licensing pieces that go around this. And so, one's more expensive than another. There's margins on one probably for some partners versus another. But, there's definitely still a little money to be made on that BC side, not as much probably as what it used to be on the Great Plains side. But as I was saying a little bit earlier, you might need a few more of those licenses on the Business Central side. So, it kind of will really just depend. And I'm checking on something here because it says that it's kind of buffering. So hopefully everything is going okay on the live stream. So let's jump back over into here. So GP also was an annual licensing, and then you paid a maintenance on that. Business Central, of course, is definitely not that. It is kind of a monthly. Some of our partners will bill quarterly, things like that, but it's really still a subscription or a software as a service type. So just some big differences between those. In GP, we were always used to being able to access the SQL database. And now in Business Central, you're in an Azure SQL database. That is obviously very different than a lot of what we're used to. But you can still get to the data and, view that data. You're not necessarily changing the data like we would do sometimes in GP, which was not always the best thing to do, is changing data in SQL. But sometimes we had to do that with stuck batches and clearing tables and things like that. In the BC world, that's becoming very different. You don't have those same issues or errors that you had kind of on the GP side. So this just kind of gives you a little bit of the product overview of the GP versus Business Central. Okay. And so module overview is another thing that, we've had some people say, well, it's not ready. Business Central is nav in the cloud. So there's a lot of modules and there's a lot of things I don't know about it. I've been working on BC for going on 4 years. I've started speaking at Directions, probably 3 years ago. One of the very first Directions. I think it was actually the second Directions. I started speaking on BC. So a little bit scary, and now I'm not so scared about talking about Business Central because I've been using it for just a little bit longer. So you still have, your finance module in GP, which is going to be like your fixed assets and your, obviously your chart of accounts and some budgeting. You have the exact same thing in Business Central. You're still going to have fixed assets available. You, of course, have your finance area. You have your budgets and your account schedules and all of that. So that to me seems very similar. And then you get into, your purchasing side. So you, of course, in GP have your purchase orders, your receivers, and your regular kind of payables transaction entry. You have the exact same thing in Business Central. I have purchase quotes, which were actually requisitions in GP, but I have quotes available, orders, invoices, and then you can do what are called journals in Business Central, which was the most confusing thing for me in the world. When I first started it was the way that I could do a general journal entry and it would affect a vendor, a customer, a fixed asset. That was the most confusing thing for me ever. Now today, not so confusing, and that's what I try to teach my GP customers that I've dealt with for years, is that you can make it kind of where it's very similar to GP. And I think a lot of times when I show them that, they get a little more comfortable. Your batching functionality is very, very different between the two products. But I will go through in my series here, I will kind of show, how to do a payables, what we did in GP, and then how we would do it in Business Central. So I've got, about 4 or 5 sessions already laid out for this. And like I said, happy to do some other things if there's things that people want to see the differences in the products. So of course we have sales, same thing, sales orders, invoices, returns, all of that is available. Inventory, fully functional inside of Business Central, kind of the same as GP. There's a couple of things that I like in Business Central a little bit better as far as doing attributes on items. In GP, we called them categories, and there were only 6 available. And Business Central, you can have like an unlimited number of attributes. So I think that's a really kind of a cool feature. Some of the other things that are in there, of course, we have project accounting. I've been a project accounting person for about 20 something years. And so I have switched over and I've done some implementations on the job side. I personally use it internally in Business Central too. Definitely a big difference between project accounting and Business Central, but I still like the module. To me, it's almost like a little bit of a lighter job cost module. And then, of course, payroll. Done payroll for years inside of GP. Payroll is not available in Business Central natively. And I say natively because there are a couple of third parties that are out there. One being Payroll Now by Integrity Data. And then there's also Green Shades has their product. I haven't used the Green Shades just yet, but I have worked with the Payroll Now product doing a very small implementation. And I definitely liked the product. There's a lot of features in the product that I, didn't necessarily touch on because I didn't need it for that customer, but definitely a lot of functionality there. So, something to explore for sure on those modules. And of course, there's other modules that are also available, like service modules, manufacturing modules. That's going to be in the premium versions. And this I'm kind of talking about just the essentials. So we'll start there, and who knows, maybe I'll get into the premium version in 6 months or so once I make it through all of these. So reporting options, and I just did a reporting session this morning for DynamicsCon. Little plug for them. So I did a reporting session on the different reporting that is in BC. So there's a lot of reporting. You have your standard reporting in GP and BC. You also have what I kind of say advanced financials, which nobody really used in GP. They used Management Reporter and FRX. But inside of Business Central, you have what are called account schedules. And so I would call it advanced financials on steroids because it's definitely better than advanced financials, but not fully the functional piece of that you would have in the other two products. But there are some third-party products that are out there. Jet Reports is out there. There's, just any of those financial reporting packages. There's a couple of them out there, just depending. I personally use some Power BI stuff for that, or I can also do them in Excel just by using the APIs or the OData feeds. So, those are pretty simple to do. Once you get to the data, you're just kind of building it out. And so then, of course, you have SSRS inside of GP. For Business Central, you do have Report Builder, which is, still kind of the SSRS world. Their standard reports are kind of not so fun to deal with, but you could write some reports. I'm actually writing some reports using Report Builder with Business Central data. So you can still, that's still available as, an option. Because again, using those OData web service APIs or any of those. And then, of course, you have refreshable Excels. Do it all the time. I've done a couple of sessions on refreshable Excels with BC data and GP data. I love those. They're great if you're needing some spreadsheet data. Same thing with Power BI. Power BI and GP is a data gateway. You cannot get to the data any other way except through the data gateway, unless you're uploading it, of course. Don't want anybody to say, oh, wait a minute. But if you're trying to do some scheduling and things like that, you're going to have to go through the gateway. Whereas with Business Central, you are connected to the data and you do not have to use the data gateway to refresh the data because it's obviously all in the cloud already. Last but not least, you have Word templates again in GP. You kind of have exactly the same thing in Business Central. Again, I did on my session this morning, I kind of compared those two pieces of how to do the Word templates. Usually for invoice orders, those types of formats. Customization is a huge difference, in my opinion, for GP and Business Central. If anybody wanted to change a window inside of GP, it was always we had to use modifier or you had to have somebody write a custom window. Of course, you had Extender that was available, but talking about just the standard functionality and not third parties, these were pretty much your only options. In Business Central, it is so easy to personalize your window. Not saying that every field is available, but there are a lot of fields available. So you can personalize your window, you can personalize roles, and the other thing you can do is someone could build an extension to create a custom window. And so that's definitely going to be an option if you're needing fields that are not available. They may just not be visible on the page, so it may be something as easy as making it visible. If it's not, then you may need an extension for that. So let's hop over into my Business Central and we will look at just some of the couple of things that I've just kind of gone over. Just want to touch kind of again on like maybe the personalization side of it. So if I come down here and I hop into my Business Central, and let me hop into a different Business Central here. You love those when they pop up that way. So I'm going to kind of go into there and pop over into a different one. It's that fun stuff when you're on a live stream and it's not in the right environment that you want to be in. And don't forget, inside of Business Central, some of my favorite things to be able to do is being able to just essentially creating live companies, test companies. That's some of the things that are just so simple and kind of, I still get amazed every single day, with being able to copy those very, very quickly. And so let me hop in here and I'm signing in. It's actually very simple to be able to sign into Business Central. and obviously it's in my environment, my 365 environment here, and it's almost in there. I like to usually be prepared, but then, you gotta kind of figure out how you can kind of get everything to work in there. So once I pop into here, now I'm in my Kronos company. And so if I'm going to go into some of that personalization, this is like the navigation here. This is where I was talking about being able to personalize. So this is one of my favorite features is, I can add fields in here. I can change these windows around. I do have a video about personalization out there, so I definitely recommend going and taking a look at that because I do go into it a little bit more. But you can, like I said, add fields in here. Do some of that personalization to hide things. If you've messed it up completely, you can always clear the personalization. So just kind of, so much different and so much easier than GP. Some of the other features that are available on, between GP and Business Central definitely are the mobile applications. So in GP, you have a web client, which, is kind of just, the same kind of fat client, just on a web server. So in Business Central, you do have the functionality to be able to see it on your phone, on a tablet, and it's very, very similar to what you would be seeing in this environment here. So I'm going to end this live stream. I said I just wanted to keep it very quick and simple to go over my first session for, just kind of how to, the main differences. The next session, I'm going to get into a little, like I said, a little bit more of the modules and go through maybe like EFT differences and, how to do payables and just kind of all the different things. So I hope to see you guys again on this journey. If you want any of the modules reviewed, I will be happy to take the time to kind of